So last night I was messing around with the Akai Force and some of the plugins that I've talked about in previous videos. In this case, I was messing with the stage piano and Hype, which is a pretty old plugin actually. It's been on the Force, I think, since the Force came out in 2019. And then I was also using the amp sim, which is pretty new as well, to play some guitar. And so to walk you through kind of what started this whole thing is I was messing with this keyboard setup with my complete S61, which Native Instruments was kind enough to send over a while ago. Shout out to Mick Benjamins, truly a hero. No strings attached, just I asked if I could have one to mess around with and make videos, and he was like, yeah. And so that was super cool. I use it all the time. It's probably my favorite keyboard I've ever used. Actually, definitely my favorite keyboard I've ever used. So I really wanted to make a piano sound from scratch using the Akai Force last night. And so I loaded up in a knit, and then I messed with some of these different parameters here. And then I also messed with the compressor and the delay and reverb. I turned delay off, but there's a nice ambient reverb here. But more important than that, the granulator's in play. I also loaded the init granulator, and I changed the density, window, length, feedback, pitch. I have it in reverse. And I really find that it's really just a valuable process to go through and just design sounds for fun and to play them, which is really what this project was about. I wasn't originally going to make a song, and I wouldn't consider this a song. It's more of a jam, right? But it started from creating this piano patch. And I wanted to showcase specifically some of the newer sounds and effects that are on the Force because I think it helps explain why I've gravitated so much towards this, no pun intended, since it received these updates. So the way this patch works is soft notes don't really get captured the same way by the granulator. I mean, obviously it's still doing its thing, but if you hit the note really hard, you can hear that it's, capturing that key action and messing with it. And so one of the other cool features that came over from the more recent MPC updates that's now on the Force is the ability to introduce randomization probability, or at least just probability. And so this first little patch here, or this loop, I played a chord consistently. You can see it's basically 16th notes, but I drew in probability afterwards to create more randomization. And then I added 2 constant, deeper bass notes in the next loop. But I kept that randomization that you can see. It's both in the velocity of my playback when I was playing it live, but it's also in the probability of the notes. And I wanted to create something that felt cinematic, which I feel like this really does. I've been listening to a bunch of Radiohead, mostly just Radiohead lately, and I wanted to create something that felt high quality. And then I added this patch here from Hype, which is one of their pads. And my thing with Hype has always been that it felt a little thin. That was like my biggest problem with it. But I've realized, in combination with some of the other more deep and broad and thick, I guess, for lack of a better word, effects and instruments, the Hype actually is great as an additive additional element. It's not literally additive synthesis, but it's an additional layer that the thinness is okay when you stack them up, right? And then on top of all of this, I thought it would be fun to introduce some guitar. And so as you heard in the demo, or in that little jam, there's a lot of guitar stuff going on here. Starting with the amp sim, let's see if I can... There's this interface, and I'm trying to remember how to get to it, because it's really cool. But there's a way now you can actually shuffle the layout. Oh, it's inserts. It's inserts, right? Yeah, there we go. If you hit inserts, you'll see there's arrows now, and you can move the order. This is huge. I don't remember this being announced. I think I just missed this, but this is awesome. Anyway, I set up a guitar sound, and I don't have anything recorded, but you heard it earlier. But yeah, it was fun to try to design a guitar sound. I didn't do too much tweaking to this amp sim, so I introduced some soft clips, some top boosts, a little bit of bias. I increased the drive, and I lowered the output a little bit. And then with the delay, I made the time 2/4. I increased the feedback to 69. Nice. And then the mix is 47. I didn't change too much, although I think I lowered the width here. And I think I've talked about this before, but if you hit the knobs or hold the knobs button and hit screen, it'll map these little screens to the parameters of whatever you're working with. I like to do that for that tactile feel when I'm doing sound design and synth design and tweaking parameters. And then for reverb, when it comes to reverb, I actually basically just copy the default Valhalla Vintage Verb settings. The first time I ever loaded Valhalla Vintage Verb, VST, I was like, this is the best sounding reverb I've ever heard. And so ever since then, I introduced pre-delay, increase the room size, make the time around 3 to 4 seconds, and lower the mix to about 20% on any reverb I use. And for the Akai Air reverb, I also tend to change it because it wants to default to like a studio reverb, and I change that to Philharmonic or Hall or something like that. When you do that, you get a really nice lush sound, which I didn't have to introduce on the other synths because they have their own built-in effects, right? So for hype, there's nothing added. This one is really just a simple, almost like call and response. It's almost like X-Files soundtrack, kind of like original Wave Station. I think that's what that was called, the Korg Wave Station sounds. Rompler, sample-based kind of thing. But it sounds good, especially in conjunction with this. My guitar sound's not amazing, but I can walk through it a little bit. Let's get that set up. So this guitar sound is no masterpiece, and I'm not some kind of savant guitar player, unlike my friend like Jake Stein from Wrong House or some other folks who really rip with guitar. But that said, let's walk through what I did here. So like I said, I had the amp sim going, and I can disable some of these. So let's just, if you tap and hold, you can delay a plugin. And apologies for that noise. My audio recorder picks up the radio somehow. It's magical. Oh yeah, let's record enable. That's what the amp sim doesn't sound super different off the top. But you can hear that increased kind of distortion. Once I introduce delay, it gets a little cooler. And then finally reverb. So you have that, mid 2000s explosions in the sky, Coldplay, U2, guitar sound, right? And so I thought that would go really well with this jam. And again, I'm not some kind of guitar savant. In fact, I really messed up my fingers because I hadn't played in so long. And I was just practicing and trying to get better. But, sometimes people comment on my videos like, hey, this doesn't sound like a finished song, or you need to master this, or be a real producer. And I think people have a misunderstanding of what I'm doing on this channel. I make real songs. I have music on Spotify, Apple Music, all those places. Please consider checking it out, by the way. I really appreciate everyone who's taken that time. But this channel is about showcasing the gear I'm interested in, showcasing the processes, and personally and very selfishly, it's about practice, right? Like I get a lot of really good practice from being able to make songs every week or make little jams every week or try new synths out. I'm doing more stuff off camera than I ever do on camera. I'm practicing guitar, piano, these keys, learning these devices, and it's so valuable for me as a musician. just to take the time to dive into these tools. I learn more about sound design. I become a better player just by consistently playing more and more and practicing more and more. And so, if you come away from this video expecting it to be some sort of perfectly produced explosions in the sky finished track, you might be disappointed, but I feel like this is a really good symbiotic setup where I get to show the stuff I'm using and hopefully show people my workflow and inspire them. And then I also get to, become a better producer and a better musician by just making more stuff consistently. And so if anyone out there is thinking about starting a YouTube channel and hasn't done it because they're worried, just do it. Just do it. My first videos weren't amazing. These videos might not be amazing. I'm sure I'll look back in 2 years and think this is a bad video, but just do it. It's like, not to just copy the Nike logo, or slogan rather, but you're never going to be perfect at this stuff. You got to just do it, and you got to just keep doing it because you'll just get better. And that's, if in the process you're also helping people, showing them gear they're interested in or teaching them something, it's kind of just a win-win. So definitely do it if you haven't. And if you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much to my Patreon patrons. Sorry about the gross dishes behind me. I'll just cover them with my guitar here. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I hope you enjoyed this bit of an experimental type video. All right, cool. I'll see you next week. Bye.